Hello and welcome to the Fighting Spirit Podcast. As always, I'm Jason, and let's just have a little bit of happy dance right here. Alright, doing my happy dance because we came in with phenomenal accuracy during the last outing of Covington versus Woodley. We're also going to get to those Adesanya Costa fight calls as well, but we went 10-3 or 10-4, depending how you look at it. We had a draw in the Nico Price-Donald Cerrone fight. We'll talk about that one, but we came in at 71 or 76, 77% accurate if you round up a bit. So we had a phenomenal night. We killed it. Let's keep rolling. Let's get into next week. But let's first talk about this phenomenal card that we just capped off on Saturday. Alright, so let's start with the main event. Colby Covington dismantles, destroys, utterly embarrasses, humiliates. Maybe that's too strong, but either way, he beat the crap out of Tyron Woodley. And, this is really, I think, the big question here. Where does Woodley go after this? And honestly, I think it's retirement. He's got his irons in a lot of different fires, and I think that it's just too much for him to keep up with the top-tier competition of the UFC. And so if he's not dedicated to the sport, this is going to be the outcome each and every time he goes up against a guy that's as good as Covington. And I think those are the only fights that Tyron really wants these days. But Colby, his output was better, his cage control was better, he was able to hold Woodley down. There was really no place that Woodley had any sort of answer to the questions that Covington was throwing at him. The only shot that I thought was substantial by Woodley was when he hit the Superman punch jumping off the cage. But he didn't knock him out, didn't wobble him, he didn't even set anything up off of it. It was one punch that cracked Covington, and Covington probably said, well, I guess that's the best you have all night, and he just proceeded to dismantle and destroy Woodley. So Colby, obviously he had his conversation with Donald Trump. He had his conversation with Usman, who's living rent-free in Colby's head, by the way. Even though Colby tried to talk a lot of trash, Usman, at the end of the day, did beat him. I wouldn't say, it was a dismantling of Colby, but he beat him pretty handily. He potentially broke his jaw in the cage. I think it ended up not being broken, but either way, he did beat him pretty badly. So for him to be talking a big game to get back there, I cannot see it, honestly, playing out any differently. But hey, who knows? That's for another time and date. In the meanwhile, we got guys like Leon Edwards. We got Hamza Chimaev, burning up 185, 170. There's so many firefights out there, and we'll get to him. But either way, we got this one correct. I said that Covington was just going to be too much, too overwhelming for Woodley, and Woodley's only chance was that explosive flurry of shots that he was not able to get off. He wasn't able to pull the trigger. He wasn't able to be first. He wasn't able to control the octagon in any way, shape, or form. It was a poor fight overall, and for Woodley. And an excellent fight for Covington. So hats off to him. He picked up a phenomenal win, and I'm looking forward to seeing him fight again, despite his heel persona. I said it before, if it's just an act, I think it's awesome. If he's really becoming this guy, I don't really like him all that much. But for the time being, I'll still say that I like him, just because I really, at the end of the day, think of it's an act. Also, another thing too, I'm not sure how long Woodley will be out. He did crack a rib. Actually, he broke a rib. Looking at the x-ray. So even if he did decide to fight again, I have no idea when that would be, and I believe he's already about 38 years old, so I think his time maybe has come and passed in the UFC. Anyways, we got to move on to the co-main here, but we did pick up a solid win. And what we didn't get correct and we didn't get wrong, I actually think we got it right, if I'm honest, but Donald Cerrone defeats Nico Price. Donald Cerrone draws Nico Price. Now, I picked Nico in this one, and he outstruck Donald 150 to 113. I thought Nico won the majority of the rounds, round one clearly, and then the other rounds, the overwhelming striking here, 150 and 113, tells me, not 150, 150 tells me that Nico Price probably won this fight, and if I remember correctly, even though he was wearing a lot of Donald's shots, I think he honestly won the fight. But it was the eye pokes to Cerrone, especially in the first round with the point deduction, that really derailed things for Nico. And even though I think he won the fight, obviously because of the point deduction, he did not end up getting it done. So I can't really count this one. I don't count draws. I don't play into the metric in any way. So for the official records, I'll not be counting it as a win or a loss. So if you want to call it that way, you can make your decision on my own performance. but I'm not calling it either way. And I honestly think that Nico Price won, so I think we honestly did predict it correct. But obviously, there's certain things you can't account for, like point deductions due to eye pokes. Moving on to the next hype train here. Next hype train. This guy is the hype train. Khamzat Chimaev knocks out Gerald Meerschaert. It was 4 punches thrown, but really all you got to see is the one. 17 seconds in, Khamzat just goes right in, pierces the guard of Meerschaert, clips him right on the chin, and Meerschaert just goes straight down, not back. When the great ones hit you, you fall flat, and that's exactly what happened. They waved it off, and Khamzat is basically ready to fight anybody, anytime, anywhere after this great win. I mean, the guy is still in great shape. He's talking about going down to 170 now to fight Damian Maia potentially, but realistically, it seems like you could really throw this guy up against anybody right now, and it would be an interesting fight. Is he ready for the champions? No, I think you got to fight contenders still, no matter how explosive you look coming in. But Meerschaert's a veteran of the game. I think he's about 50 fights under his belt. Let's look at his record here. Where is his record on this page? Here we are, 31-14. So yeah, nearly 50 fights. And a lot of experience. He only lost 14 of them, 13 before this last loss. So he was a pretty good fighter. I don't know if he was performing to his full potential. He has struggled a bit recently, but either way, I think he should have put on a better performance against Khamzat. But ultimately he was not, and we were able to call that one correctly. So Khamzat's numbers are going to stay skewed. I'm pretty sure every time I call him in a fight, he is going to be the declared winner because his numbers are just really, really good right now. But anyways, moving on to the next one, we also got correct. Johnny Walker defeats Ryan Spann. This one is tough because Spann, and we got it right, but Spann probably should have won this fight. Early on in the first round, he did clip Walker, got to the mount position, and didn't just ground and pound hammer fisted him, tried to get him in looked like a triangle from the mount position, and he ultimately let Johnny Walker slip out, pick up an opportunity to then shut the door on Spann and knocked him out. I think maybe it was Spann's conditioning why he wasn't able to shut the door. I'm not really sure, but honestly, Spann probably should have won this fight. But Walker ends up bouncing back, proving that he is an excellent fighter that deserves to be at the upper echelons of light heavyweight and earns an excellent win against a guy that was looking phenomenal in Ryan Spann coming in. So hats off to him, and we pick up another phenomenal win. Next, another phenomenal win. We just keep rolling here. Mackenzie Dern defeats Ronda Marcos. So Dern throws a kind of a wild kick and ends up falling down, and instead of letting her get back to her feet, Ronda decides, no, I have a national Canadian wrestling title, and I'm going to just go in against this absolute submission grappler. Good idea, right? Not so much. So she goes in and she just walked into Dern's playground. She was like, oh, hey, I want to play in your world. And that was a terrible idea for Marcos. Dern ends up picking up a phenomenal armbar victory. We called it right. And it was just great opportunity capitalized on. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dern did not expect Marcos to engage her on the ground like that. Marcos had every opportunity to let Dern stand up. I don't know why she did that. It must have been heat of the moment, but it is what it is. And another one we got right, although it was close. Kevin Holland defeats Darren Stewart. So despite having that excellent reach, Darren Stewart was still able to get inside on Holland and did give him some runs for his money. He scored 3 takedowns, was slightly outstruck, but it was close. It ended up being a split decision for Holland, and Holland honestly doesn't think he won that fight. He thinks that it actually was a Stewart victory, and I think it's arguable. I didn't feel confident going into the decision that Holland had actually won this one. I thought that maybe Stewart had pulled it out, but ultimately they ended up giving it to Holland, and so we do get it correct, but that was a very, very close fight. Another one we got wrong this time. David Dvorak defeats Jordan Espinosa. Espinosa just didn't have as many answers for Dvorak. Dvorak looked very good out there and put on an excellent exhibition against Espinosa, outstriking him 68-50. Then another one we did get incorrect, although this one was sad. Damon Jackson defeats Mirsad Bektic. Jackson was going for a lot of submissions. He was heavy on that guillotine. He tried for Kimura at one point, and he ends up picking up that guillotine finally in a fight that I thought he was getting his ass kicked. Bektic scores 7 takedowns. Doesn't throw many strikes, but 7 takedowns over the first 2 rounds. And then early on in the third round, he gets caught in a guillotine, and Bequette ends up losing the fight in a fight that he was dominating. Jackson has great submission grappling. He was able to hang with a really, really high-pressure grappler like Bequette, and for his debut, I mean, it was phenomenal stuff. It didn't look good going into the third round. I thought Bequette was going to cruise to victory, but Jackson is picking up kind of a surprise upset and defeating Bequette. So he snatched victory from the jaws of defeat, and then vice versa for Bequette. So we got this one incorrect, but it is what it is. Just bad move for Bequette, honestly. And there was no reason for him to lose that fight at that point. In the next one, we had Mara Bueno Silva defeat Mara Romero Barella. In this one, we did get it correct. Bueno Silva picks up a first-round armbar 2 minutes and 29 seconds into round number 1. Then, a little further down here, Jessica Rose Clark defeats Sarah Elpar. So when I called, Elpar was touted as a pretty hot product coming in, but was nowhere near the match for Jessica Rose Clark. She was outstruck 76-12, scored one takedown of her own, and ended up finishing her with a knee. Also, this was a terrible call now that I think about it, remember back. This fight should have been ended earlier, but Chris Taioni did not call this fight off after the knee. So I think there was a question if it was an illegal knee, if Elpar had been grounded, but she was not. She basically just sat in a squatted, almost catcher-like position and caught a knee to the dome. And then the doc came in, checked her out. They didn't wave off the fight. And honestly, her cornerman, because they knew she was bad, they should have thrown in the towel at that point. The fight should have been called. But it goes out of the second round, early into the third, and then Taioni comes and waves it off pretty early. But this is one that I think was a bad call on Taioni. He really should have called it at that point. Or, honestly, her corner should have had, the wherewithal to throw in the towel for the fighter. You're there to protect them. You can see your fighter is concussed, and probably not with it, only going to absorb more damage. And in this game, you cannot afford to be on the sidelines healing up when somebody could have, plucked you out of that situation. If she was a debut fighter, it would have been understandable if her corner had pulled her out. It's usually frowned upon if the fighter does it, less frowned upon when the coaches do it. That's part of their job to protect them, and the ref's supposed to protect them too, and I think he failed his job. So everybody kind of failed Sarah that night, and I feel bad for her because she took excessive damage that wasn't necessary. Anyways, in the next one we did get correct. Derek Minor defeats TJ Laramie. Not much to say here. Laramie scores 15 strikes to TJ's none. Ends up getting a guillotine choke 52 seconds into the first round. That's all she wrote. And Laramie is just another Dana White Contender Series guy that has not performed under the big lights thus far. The next one, Randy Costa, relatively a local guy to me, goes out and knocks out Journey Newsom with a head kick. Just awesome contest. Went out there 41 seconds in and picks up a performance of the night money, which also went, by the way, to Damon Jackson, Mackenzie Dern, and to Hamzat. Then the last two, Andre Ewell defeats Erwin Rivera. Just outclassed him 123-81 in strikes, although Rivera does get one takedown and honestly looked tough as hell. I don't see why it was a split decision. I thought Ewell did win the fight, but you can see the aggression and the pressure from Rivera. Maybe it was arguable to why one judge gave it, but it's hard to overlook 50 additional strikes by Ewell. And then the last one, Nam picks up a knockout over Jerome Rivera. Solid win here, very close contest, but Nam gets it done, and we did end up getting that one incorrect. So like I said, 3 outright wrong, 4 technically if you count the Cerrone-Price fight. Those draws are always tough. I never really considered them. So we had excellent accuracy, the best for quite a while, and I'm looking to keep rolling here. Let's keep moving. Let's get into UFC 253. Alright, so we have 2 title fights in this one, and the first one is going to be for the middleweight title between Israel, the last style bender, Adesanya, and Paulo Costa. And in this one, it is going to be a tight fight. I can't see how it's going to be a smash contest either way, but honestly, in this one, I'd like Costa a little bit more. Costa has shown an explosiveness and an ability to dismantle everybody he's fought thus far in a way that I think Israel hasn't. Did Israel outclass Whitaker to win the title? Absolutely. Dealt with the power really well. He used it against him. But I think that Costa's ability to throw several big shots together, unlike the shots that he used against Whitaker, where they were just single big shots. I think Costa's going to throw so many shots in so many bunches that it's just going to be too much, and it's going to be overwhelming to Izzy. Now, we have the larger octagon at Fight Island, so that is to Izzy's advantage, unlike the 20-foot octagon that we were talking about if it was stayed in Vegas right now at the Apex Center. But I still think Costa is going to be able to win that fight. He's going to bring the fight to him, and I think that he's going to be able to defeat him. I mean, he brought the fight to Romero. He ate good shots from Romero. He obviously has big power. Knockouts of Uriah Hall, Johnny Hendricks. This guy is a wrecking machine if there ever was one, and I think he's going to be able to defeat Izzy, who, let's look back, had a hard time winning the interim title against Gastelum, right? He did not look that good in his fight against Gastelum. He was all banged up. Gastelum is a pretty small guy, and he was still able to connect really good shots on him and able to, almost win that fight. He did have Izzy dazed a couple times. I know it's a unanimous victory for Adesanya, but that fight was slightly closer than the unanimous decision looking back on it now suggests. So in this one, I am going to go with Costa. I think he's the better fighter. I think he's going to be able to deal with his style and technique, and I think it's just going to be overwhelming for Izzy. He's going to have a hard time getting out of there. Now, could he potentially do it? Could he connect with a great shot, great counter shot? I think that's really how Izzy's going to have to fight against Costa and, using his power against him. It's absolutely possible. I just don't think it's going to happen, and I think Costa is your new middleweight champion. Let's see how things play out, though, on Saturday. And then moving into the next one here, another title fight. We're going to have Dominic Reyes taking on Jan Blachowicz. And in this one here, it's another tough case here because we have Reyes, who does have some power, but I don't think quite at the level of Blachowicz. And I honestly think in this case, we're going to see Reyes deal well or better with the power of Blachowicz than I think Izzy's going to deal with Costa. And so I do see Reyes winning this fight. He's fought power punchers before. Guys like Ozdemir. We know Jared Cannonier's got some big hands. Ovince St. Preux's nothing to sneeze at. And the only guy he hasn't beaten thus far, who he probably did beat, was John Jones, right? I thought he personally won 3 out of the 5 rounds, but that's neither here nor there at this point. So he's dealt well with power punchers. He's dealt well with guys with great technique, and John Jones, guys that are rangy. He's a guy that it seems like he can fight almost any kind of style and come out with a victory. And Blachowicz, we've seen on an amazing run right now too. The only guy he's lost to was Thiago Santos until you go back to 2017 and Patrick Cummings. I mean, the guy's also dealt with power. Guys like Jimmy Manuar. He's dealt with grapplers and Ronaldo Souza or Jacare. He beat on Luke Rockhold, the former 185 champion. This guy has power. Corey Anderson, he has power and he's looking good. However, I think that Reyes is going to be able to move around the cage, get around the octagon, and really put it on Blachowicz here. I think it is going to be close, but ultimately Reyes is going to come up and he's going to end up being your 205-pound champion in the UFC. And what happens with John Jones, now that he's vacated the belt, only time will tell. I am looking forward to his debut at heavyweight. It's just wondering who that's going to be. But the new 205 era is upon us, and I think Dominic Reyes starts that streak. All right, moving on to the next one here. We're going to have Kai Kara-France taking on Brandon Royval. And in this one here, Royval looked excellent in his fight against Tim Elliott, and we've seen good stuff out of Kai Kara-France, solid output. But I think that the takedown game, that it looks quite a bit better out of Royval, is going to be able to take down some of that high output of Kai Kara-France. And I think that Royval is going to get it done here. He has the bigger frame at 5'9" over France is 5'4", despite not having the reach advantage. France does have a bit of lankiness on him, but I think that Royval is going to be able to get it done. He's going to sap the gas tank. He's going to be able to hold him down and basically just make him his bitch on the ground, if you will. Solid submission average for 15 minutes. He looked amazing against Elliott, a guy that had looked good against great competitors in the past like Mighty Mouse, and so I think he'll be able to work his way through Kai Kara-France. He's going to be the pick on Saturday. All right, this one is coming down to one of those I can't call it correctly seems like fighters. So I don't like Sijara Eubanks all that much, at least by the numbers. Usually I call her fights. I'm going against her personally. But this one, she's taking on Ketlen Vieira, and most of the time I always say don't go with Sijara Eubanks. And I'm going to go ahead and say that again, but I seem to be bitten in the butt by it again and again. So Ketlen Vieira is going to be the pick in this one. Her striking doesn't seem to be quite as good as Eubanks, but I actually like her a little better on the ground. I think she has very, very solid takedown defense, which will nullify Sajara's takedowns, and I think that she will be able to outpace Eubanks. I think, a little bit bigger size advantage, very small reach advantage will be to her favor, and she'll end up being able to pick up a solid victory. But Eubanks is apparently getting better, and her stats don't show it yet, so I've yet to really call her fights all that well. We had that Sarah Morris win and the Avila win. Although, remember, Vieira's coming off the loss to Aldana, even though she had great wins over McMahon and Zagano. So let's see if Ketlen can bounce back in this one. I think she will, but Eubanks is on a 2-fight winning streak, and she might be able to carry it forward. Just the numbers don't reflect that just yet. We'll see how things play out, though. I am still picking Ketlen Vieira, though, to pick up a win. All right, this fight is a little bit of a dark horse. I like it. Hakeem Dawodu taking on Zubora Tukov. And in this one, Dawodu has amazing striking. Tukov has amazing takedowns, and they're going to go ahead and clash at it. Also, Dawodu is quietly on a 4-fight winning streak with his last win over Julio Aris. Before that, Jorge, Bokniak, and Arnett. He hasn't lost in quite a while, where he lost to Henry. Then we look over at Tukov, solid win over Aguiar in his last outing. Andrade Murphy lost to Moicano. He's been kind of off and on quite a while in the UFC, and I think that Dawodu is going to be able to take advantage of that kind of off and on nature. I think his striking, his 5-inch reach advantage, and his ability to stop takedowns at an 85% rate is going to be part of the factor here. I think he's going to be able to shut down the ground game of Tukov, keep it on the feet where he wants it, and basically box up Tukov, who has not looked as competent on the feet lately, not having the greatest striking accuracy or even the best defense for that matter. So, I'll see how things play out there, but I am going with Hakeem Dawodu in that featherweight bout. All right, the next one here, we have an amazing fight because we have City Kickboxing's own Brad Riddell, the Quake, taking on Alex Silva Coelho. And in this one, I do like Riddell. He's looked really good in the UFC thus far. Granted, he did have a split decision his last outing, but that City Kickboxing camp is right up there. It's training guys like Izzy, it's training guys like Dan Hooker, and it's ready to train a guy and bring him to this showcase where I think New Zealand is going to be basically the center point, or the focal point. That's a better way to say it. The focal point of this event here. Now, nothing bad to say about Alex de Silva. He's got a win over Vargas and then a loss to Yankelev in his UFC bouts thus far. But honestly, I think that it's going to be a City Kickboxing night, at least for Brad Riddell, and he's going to be able to pick up a win. The guy has just looked phenomenal thus far, having amazing striking output, where I think he's going to be able to, as long as he can keep it standing, we'll have the full advantage over Alex de Silva. So we'll see how things play out, but Brad Riddell of City Kickboxing is the pick in this lightweight bout. All right, and one I really do not want to call. Diego Sanchez is taking on Jake Matthews. So I don't know if you watched the video recently of Sanchez getting chased around the octagon by his trainer, Fabio Maldonado. I don't know what's up with that guy. I don't know what's up with Sanchez still fighting. He's a legend of the sport. Sure, absolutely. I think he is in the UFC Hall of Fame at this point. He was on the first the Ultimate Fighter reality show, and I'd love to talk about the stats here, but Diego, it looks like he doesn't really have it anymore. He has that win over Pereira, but let's face facts, it really was a loss. And I know he defeated Mickey Gall, but Mickey Gall hasn't looked that great lately, and I don't see him beating Jake Matthews here. He's on 2-fight win streak against Emil Meek and Ackman, and I don't think that Diego Sanchez is going to be able to win here. Maybe at one point in his career, I would have said all day, but realistically, I just want Sanchez to retire, and hopefully, he can go out after this one. I think he's just been in the game too long, and his trainer sucks, and I really got nothing good to say about this fight. So Jake Matthews is the winner on the numbers, and let's just leave it at that. All right, the last one here before we get to the debuters, we have Juan Espino taking on Jeff Hughes. And in this one here, I like Espino. Now, he's only had one fight in the UFC, but he looked phenomenal in that one outing. And I think if he's able to carry over that level of success, he's going to have a great night. He's going up against a good competitor in Jeff Hughes, but the way he just absolutely dismantled Justin Frazier in his UFC debut, as long as he can carry that over and make his submission game known, I think he's going to be able to pick up a solid win over Jeff Hughes, even though he's never been submitted himself and does train in a solid camp over at Strong Style, where Stipe trains out of. I don't think he's going to be able to get a win. Also, let's take note of the fact that he does not yet have a win in the UFC, with losses to Rafael Pessoa, Maurice Green, and any no contest to Todd Duffy. So just keep that in mind as well. Juan Espino is the pick in this contest. And then for the last three here, which are all going to be debut bouts, let's see here. Let's pull them up real quick. We have Shane Young taking on Ludovic Klein. In this one, I like Klein. We also have William Knight taking on Alexa Kamor, and that one I like Kamor. And then in the last one here, we have Cadiz Abradikimov taking on Danilo Marquez, and in this one I like Marquez. So to go over them one more time, we have Costa, Reyes, Royval, Vieira, Dawoodu, Riddell, Matthews, Espino, Klein, Kamor, and Marquez to round things out. So fight takes the whole card takes a bit of a drop after the main events, but it's a solid enough pay-per-view. I think it's certainly one that most people will buy that are fans, and so I am looking forward to it. And this is going to open up Fight Island for the second time this year, and we're going to open it with these two title fights, close it out with another title fight of Gaethje versus Nurmagomedov. It's going to be a roller coaster of 5 weeks, and I am looking forward to it for sure. All right, so if you'd like to get in touch with the Fighting Spirit Podcast, you know how to do that. FightingSpiritPodcast@gmail.com, at MMA Fight Picks 01 on Twitter. You also can reach out through the Facebook comments, YouTube comments down below. And down below, speaking of which, in the description of the podcast of YouTube, you can go over, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and check out our Patreon as well if you'd like to support the show for a dollar amount that makes the most sense to you. I posted some fights to Patreon again this week. They were definitely money makers, so if you used my fight picks last week, you landed in the money, and that's what we try to do each and every week here at the Fighting Spirit. So, until I speak with you again next time on the Retrospective, happy fight picking.